Alles klar? Thank you very much. Welcome to Fashion Tech Berlin. As you can hear, I have a bit of trouble with my voice, so I hope it's gonna hold up. Somebody just told me that the more you whisper, the more people will pay attention, so I might try that out. Yeah, I mean, Highsnobiety is now 12 years old, and we've gone through all sorts of cycles throughout those 12 years. We started before there was YouTube. We started before Facebook played a role. We started before there was Instagram, so it was a very different time, so to speak. But I think the one thing that kind of remained the same is that storytelling for brands and retailers is as important as it's ever been. And I'd love to give you guys a little bit of insight on how we do that on Highsnobiety, actually. So yeah, I really like this quote by Seth Godin: "Marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but the stories you tell." I would not necessarily agree that it doesn't matter what you make, but it certainly doesn't have any impact anymore if you can't get the same message across in your communication. More than ever, brands and retailers actually need to think like a publisher nowadays in order to stay relevant across all these different platforms. And brands are actually a vital part of the identity of young people nowadays. So as a result, the next young generation is super critical about products and brands, and they think twice before they choose to pick something up. You need to create an emotional connection with the consumer, and one of the ways of doing so is, of course, some strong storytelling. I mean, I think we would all agree nobody would buy Yeezy if there wasn't Kanye West. Nobody would buy Gucci if there wasn't this incredible heritage in the brand. So what actually makes good storytelling? So I want to talk specifically about how to do storytelling to a young audience, so about young millennials and Gen Z, so people that are in their late teens, so to speak. So their attitude towards brands, towards communication, towards marketing has vastly changed over the last few years, and therefore, I want to show you how we believe this new type of storytelling works. And so I'm going to run through some ideas there, and then I'm going to finish with a couple of case studies on how we actually do that nowadays with our brand partners. Two of the most important factors of storytelling nowadays are authenticity and relevance. So as most of you may know, I mean, scale is something that anybody can really generate nowadays. You can get scale through Facebook, you can get scale through Instagram, you can buy scale for the most part. But in the end of the day, you need real content tailored to your audience interests, and you need to activate this content in the right environment. So if you understand how to communicate with your audience, you can really own that conversation nowadays. The tools are in all of our hands. For the most part, they're even free, and you just need to use them the right way. Authenticity is, of course, very much a buzzword nowadays, and so I'd like to start by going through basically the main pillars of how we understand authenticity today. So how do you create an authentic relationship with your customer? We look at culture, talent, platforms, and audiences nowadays. You need to connect with cultures that young people care about, and you cannot just connect. You need to be part of the culture, and you actually need to drive the culture in order to connect with your audience the right way. BS is being called out really quick, and the problem nowadays is it's easy to communicate with your audience, but it's also very easy to get feedback from your audience. So you need to be real careful that you connect with the cultures that they actually care about. Talent, I mean, you guys probably hear all day something about influencer marketing, about influencers being important and being the new thing or the latest thing or still a thing. Everybody's talking about influencers. And I wouldn't say it's wrong. I wouldn't say it's the best tool either. I think there is a right influencer and there's a wrong influencer, and you just need to hit that right balance. You need to make sure that your influencer or your creative talent has an authentic connection with the culture that your stories represent. And if you can make that happen, then it's still a very important tool. One of the oldest examples would be Tommy Hilfiger and Aaliyah. Still today, probably one of the most authentic connections of a brand and an influencer, and really putting a brand into a culture where it didn't play a role before, at the time hip-hop culture, and there's still that strong connection up until today. Platforms. We're going to speak about this a little more after, but you need to publish content on culturally relevant platforms, and you need to create content that has a relevant connection with each. You need to be present on the platforms, and you need to have culturally relevant content on these platforms that is relevant to your audience. You cannot just be on there for the sake of it. You really need to make sure that you take each platform for its own, and that you get your story across the right way on each platform. Last but not least is, of course, the audience. Everything that you do should always be about your audience. You know, it's always the most important part. Does your story connect with your audience? How does it connect with them? What do they care about? You need to start by understanding your audience, and that's how you need to answer everything else. So here we take a look now at basically our reach across platform. 95% of Highsnobiety reach is generated on social platforms. As Ole mentioned earlier, we get about 500 million impressions across our content. That's quite a bit, but most of it actually happens on social platforms. You can create videos, you can create photo editorials, you can create all kinds of other content, but if you're not creating the right content for the right platform, it's not going to get seen. So it's really not, you know, the quantity that makes it, but it's the quality and the right content for the right platform that makes it. Here we have a bit of a breakdown of how our impressions fall within the different platforms. You know, you can clearly see that Facebook and Instagram are by far the two biggest ones that we cater to today. What I like to do very occasionally is check in with the youngest members of our team and ask them, where do you get your news today? You know, where do you get your sneaker news? Where do you get your fashion news? Just to get a bit of a feeling of who we're actually competing with. And I remember fondly about a year and a half ago, our intern telling me that he gets his news from Instagram. You know, and that was, for me, a huge eye-opener, because I realized that we're not competing with another publisher, we're not competing with another website, we're actually competing with Instagram or with Facebook on delivering news. And in the end of the day, you're just one square in an endless feed, and you know that just shows you, you know, if you want to be relevant in that endless feed, you need to create the best content, and you need to create the most valuable content for that audience. At Highsnobiety, we have dedicated teams working on each and every platform in order to ensure that we really stay true to that. That also leads us to this next statement. You know, 5% of social brand content garners 90% of content engagement. So, you know, clearly indicating that that quality over quantity rules on these platforms. You know, so the feeds are getting more competitive than ever before. You have algorithmic changes all the time that also, at this point, you know, put more weight on quality content. So your content cannot just be visually appealing, but it also needs to be engaging. You really can't compromise on one or the other. Next, I would like to show you our Highsnobiety show reel. So just a really quick video, so I have to speak less. And then, no, you get some extra information about Highsnobiety. You get to see some of our branded content that we do with partners. And then afterwards, I would like to go into 3 cases of how we did storytelling with some of our brand partners. Let's see.
Shout out to Highsnobiety.
Highsnobiety. This Highsnobiety.
Shout out Highsnobiety.
Dry your eyes, hold me a jerk, not
Cause the size of my jeans are how I hurt you.
Yeah, so thank you. So next up, I have 3 content examples. So we worked this year with Nike on the Air Max Day execution. We worked with Gucci on their Gucci Ghost collaboration, and we worked with Moncler on their Moonray capsule collection just recently. So I wanted to show you on these 3 examples how some of the storytelling that we do looks today. In the case of Nike Vapor Max, this was one of the most important innovations of the brand in recent years, and it was really important for them that Air Max month, which is the month of March, and the Air Max Vapor Max story connects with people no matter on what platform they're on. So we created a storyline around visionaries in several European cities, and connected with these visionaries to create content. There was long-form storytelling going on Highsnobiety.com. There was Instagram story content, which featured snackable video content. There was Facebook Live, which we used both to do product unveilings and also to report live from some of the events that Nike hosted around Europe. So here I'm going to give you now a quick overview of how some of this content looked like. So here again, the challenge, generating awareness and conversions for the global launch of the brand new Nike Vapor Max, and was very much about delivering a 360-degree storytelling approach across many platforms. I think the other interesting thing of note here is that a lot of the content that was produced for this campaign actually was also produced for Nike retailers and for Nike themselves.
What up, guys? It's your boy Bro CK, here with your boy CD Dan Christforth, aka Chris Danforth.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're here doing some more Air Max Day unboxings.
Yeah, and this is one of their biggest projects of now, the present, but also of the future. This is what is being called the Vapor Max. I'm sure all of you guys have seen this before online and on social media, but here they are.
What up, guys? This is Chris from Highsnobiety.
And I'm Teacher Shine.
And we're here in London. And we're back in Paris for Air Max Day 2017.
Yeah, the next example would be Gucci. Many of you have probably seen this, but Gucci teamed up late last year with a graffiti artist called Gucci Ghost from Los Angeles, and they of course want to make sure that this collaboration was culturally relevant for the people that they pushed it to. And if you walk into a Gucci store, if you go into a usual Gucci event, that might not really be the case. So we did on one hand a content program which involved a lookbook shoot showing a younger audience how they could actually be wearing the Gucci Ghost collection. We also extended that with an event here in Berlin, and it was an interesting situation because Gucci hosted the event inside their shop, and their best customers are 65 years old, and so they wanted to make sure that Gucci Ghost doesn't show up and only has 65-year-olds around them at that event. So we also support them with guest list management, and we also did some cool Snapchat live storytelling with the artist when he was here in Berlin and prepared for the event at night, so to speak. And this is how this all looked.
What's up, Highsnobiety? This is Trevor Andrew, and I just got to Berlin. I guess it's Gucci for me because it represents greatness, just in the word, you know? No, Gucci Ghost didn't start as a Halloween costume, but it kind of did. But it's totally not totally.
Yeah, so included in the Gucci execution was also shoppability. That was one of their main KPIs. So, you know, the lookbook that we produced also had shoppable functionality included to push people over to Gucci.com. I think here it's also interesting to note that in the end of the day, it really depends, you know, what your goal is with every single campaign. Is your KPI a bigger Instagram following? Is your KPI a bigger Facebook following? Do you want clicks into your e-commerce? Or maybe it's just branding, you know? So depending on what you want to achieve, you really choose what channels, what platforms you tell your stories on. And also depending on who you want to reach. You know, if you want to reach a younger audience, you need to include something, a platform like Instagram. If you want to have an older audience, maybe you concentrate on producing podcasts. You know, so you can really play with the different platforms depending on you know, who you want to reach from your audience, and make sure that way that you deliver it all the right way. The last example that I've brought along is Moncler. So the Italian outerwear brand that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. They created this capsule collection called Moonray. And Moonray is this like silver metallic outerwear that they launched just about a month ago. And they came to us already with the idea of this alien invasion. You know, so they produced this B-movie for the launch of the collection, and we had to translate that theme onto our content, essentially. So what we did actually was we created these artificial interruptions of our content. So we would have a Facebook Live show going on, and then in the middle of the Facebook Live show, you would have these UFOs going through the screen and, you know, kind of hinting at something happening, something going on. And we had that over the course of several days on Instagram, on Facebook, you know, always platform specific. Hinting to people that, you know, something would be happening along the lines of the moon and aliens. So we ended up using these video assets that they gave us to stage these takeovers on our end, and then we also produced a lookbook because, again, if you look at the usual content that a brand like Moncler would be producing, that's just not content that a fashion-forward young consumer would actually be interested in, you know. So it was very much also about translating the look of the collection onto a consumer that our audience and in general a young audience can actually connect with. And this is how it looks like.
I don't like roller coasters.
What? Oh yeah, that's right. He can't handle roller coasters.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.